Hello everybody, what is going on? My name is Austin James Jackson. I'm a professional landscape photographer based in southern Utah, and today we're out in the field in the beautiful Death Valley National Park on the sand dunes. As you can probably tell by all this crumbling sand, I'm on this hillside shooting this beautiful scene with hopefully this beautiful sunrise that's about to pop right behind us. Now this made for the perfect opportunity for me to make a video on something I've wanted to cover for a while, which is focus stacking. Now I have videos on my channel covering focus stacking that I've made in the past, but I don't have one using a new software that I recently discovered a few months back that I really like for focus stacking, which is Helicon Focus. So this video is going to kind of be an all-encompassing, all-in-one video where I'm going to show you how I shoot in the field and then how I combine it in Helicon Focus. That being said, we've got a lot to cover. I don't want to waste a lot of time, so let's go ahead and jump right in there. First things first, I'm going to show you how I shoot this in the field. Then we're going to jump right on over into my office where we'll throw it all together in Helicon. I'll kind of talk you through it there, talk you through some things that you want to avoid and some things that you want to make sure you do. So let's get right into it. Let's take a look at the back of my camera, how I'm going to do this focus stack in the field. All right, that beautiful color is coming, so we better get moving here. So the first thing that you want to do, set all of your camera settings for proper exposure. You don't want to blow out the highlights. You don't want the shadows to be too dark. So, I wouldn't want to go somewhere bright like that. And I wouldn't want to go somewhere too dark like that. I want to go somewhere right in the middle to where these highlights aren't blown out. If you want, you can use your histogram to do that. I personally don't usually use it, but I'll put it up for some of you guys that might want to look at it. You can see right there, everything's in the middle. So that's good. For a scene like this, we don't need to talk too much about basic exposure, but ISO 100 because nothing's moving, so I can open up the shutter speed as much as I want. I've got my aperture 5.6. You want to use the aperture for the sharpest value on your lens. I've got other videos covering how to find that and why I shoot it at 5.6. And then we've got our shutter speed is 1/50th right now. That will change. So if you needed to do if you needed to do an HDR blend, you totally could do that. You would just want to do an HDR blend for each focus point, so it's going to be a lot more images. Now, we're assuming that you don't need to do that like this image, so I'm going to show you what I do. First of all, set your drive mode to 2-second timer. If you don't know how to find this stuff, hit the function button, just like that. On most cameras, it's function, or I think on maybe it's Nikon, it's information. I can't remember what it's called, but wherever you access all your settings, make sure that drive mode is on 2-second, and then make sure that you have focus mode on like autofocus single shot, and then focus area. I like to do a flexible spot, medium. You can really do any kind of flexible spot that you can adjust that you want, but I like to do medium. So then I will move it around. Now I have this cool joystick on my camera and it's also touch screen, but you may have to go back into that menu every time to be able to move it. But however you need to do it, you basically just want to take one focus point image at each spot in the frame. Now a lot of people will ask, well, how many shots do I need to take? And previously I would have told you, 3 or 4 is probably good for most scenes. Now that we're using Helicon Focus and the process is all automated, I just take way more than I think I need because the software is really good about just throwing it all together for you and making it really easy. So you can see, and that one focus missed again. Let's try and go over here and hunt for focus. And sure, could you manual focus this? Definitely. I like to do autofocus because I find that I think it does a better job than I could do, to be honest with you. The autofocus very rarely misses, and when it does, it lets me know by creating that little pink box instead of green. So I would just go through here, get all my focus points, get them a couple times just to make sure. And then that's pretty much all I need to do in the field. You want to make sure your composition doesn't move. Helicon can move your images slightly, but I find that it's better to just not have a moving composition in the field. It just makes your final output so much better. And additionally, grab your images in quick succession because you don't want the light to be changing too much between the images. You can see as I was talking, I just kind of rapid fired all the way through. So that pretty much wraps up in the field here. Let's go ahead and jump over to my office where we're going to edit all of these images and throw them together in Helicon. I'll show you some tips, tricks, everything in between. So let's go.
All right, back at home now in front of the computer, it's time to merge these images together. Now, there's a couple different ways to do this. The traditional way to do it would be to blend the images in Photoshop. You can certainly do that if you already have Photoshop. That will obviously cost you nothing, but that's not what we're going to do in this video. If you're interested in seeing how to do it in Photoshop, I've got another video, which I'll link here. But again, I think there is a little bit better way to do that, and that is going to be using a program called Helicon Focus. Now, this isn't sponsored at all. Helicon's not paying me to make this video. I don't even have a contact at Helicon. There is a link down below if you want to purchase it. It does get me like a couple dollars off of your purchase. But really, I'm just showing you this because I think it's a great piece of software. I tried this a few months ago. I didn't think it was a good software because I'd tried it a few years ago and it was horrible. And then when I tried it again a few months ago, it amazed me at how easily it puts together focus stacks. Typically, the software is used for like macro photographers that are combining 100 or 200 images together in one, but it works amazing for landscape photographers as well. And I just kind of want to show you the power of it, how easy it makes it, and it really ensures that everything in your image is totally sharp. Because if you use that Photoshop method, you do have to be really careful and really cautious, especially in those complicated scenes, to make sure that everything stays in focus. Whereas with Helicon, as long as you capture the right images in the field, you sped everything into the software, and then it makes it all happen for you. So I'm going to show you how to set it up and how to use it. And again, if you are going to purchase it, use that link down below. It helps get me a couple bucks to make these videos a little bit more rewarding for me and help me to continue to provide these videos. So let's jump right in there to Helicon. First thing that we're going to do is head over into Lightroom here. I've got all my photos here. Now, to be honest, I don't remember which ones we shot during the video, but essentially, I'm just going to take everything from like one stack. Now, if you were doing this in Photoshop, you would want to try and have like 3 images so that it's a simpler blend, so there's less to work with. But because we're doing in Helicon, the software will just determine the sharpest spot in all the photos. So I'm just going to grab everything that's from like the same image, or not like the same time frame, if that makes sense. So if you look here in Lightroom, top left, you can see the time. So I'm looking at the time here. I can see this is 7:55:47. This was 10 seconds earlier, 5 seconds earlier, 4 seconds earlier, 6 seconds earlier, 8 seconds earlier, 12 seconds earlier. So you can see these are all taken in the same time frame, whereas like this image, you can see there's a 3-minute gap. So I basically want to take everything from, this is 4119, and I want to take everything to 4128. So the way that I'm going to do this is right click here, or control click if you don't have a mouse. And then I want to go up to show in Finder. And then we said we wanted everything from 4119 to 4128. So click on the first image, hold shift and click on the last image. That'll select all of the images. Now you can click and drag these into Helicon Focus. So if you already have it open, that helps. I have it on my menu bar down here. So I'll click and drag, load them in. Now this will take just a second for all of the images to load out. And there's so many different things you can do in Helicon, and honestly, for landscape photography, we're just scratching the surface of what we need to do. They're all relatively simple blends, but you can put maybe there's a limit to how many images, but for the sake of landscape photography, you can basically put as many as you would want in here to ensure the best sharpness in your photo. Now, I guess I'll show you like kind of the before we blend these, why we're doing this. So like in this photo, you can see when I click on the screen, it shows me 100%. The background is sharp and the foreground is not so sharp. Yeah, especially over here. We got some things that aren't quite as sharp. Let me see if I can find one where the background isn't sharp, because it'll be really obvious. And you can see as you click through the images, it takes a second to load out. Honestly, you don't have to do this every time. I'm just kind of trying to show an example here. Yeah, like this one, you can see how blurry that background is, but how nice and sharp this foreground is. And if you remember when we shot in the field, we got a focus point here, one over here. We've got them all over the place. If you have a camera that does focus stacking where you can just choose the amount of steps, that would make the process a lot easier. But if you don't, you can do it just how I did it here. So we've got all our images here. First thing before we blend these, go to Helicon Focus, Preferences, and go to Auto Adjustments. Previously in the video that I made on this software, I mentioned doing 25, 25, 25, and 10. I've since changed that. I've dropped it a little bit because I think for landscape photography, as long as you're shooting on a tripod, you can go 10, 10, 10, 10. If you are shooting handheld, maybe you want to keep it at 25. But essentially, this is telling the program how large of a percent can it adjust the images to auto align them, because it automatically aligns the images. Even though we've shot on a tripod, there still might be some slight movement, some focus breathing, whatever. So you want to set those settings. Now make sure all of the images are checked. This makes sure all of the images go into the blend. Then you can scroll down to rendering method. You can try A, B, and C if you want. I've been playing around with this for quite a while now, a few months, with a lot of different images, and I've found B to work the best on basically every single image. So I mostly just use B, but if you want to try A sometimes works well, C generally not the best. So I like to select method B. My radius is 3, my smoothing is 1, then I hit render. Now this takes a second to load out. The more images that you have and the slower your computer is, the longer this is going to take. I have a pretty fast computer, though this is a lot of images, so this might take a little bit of time, but it's going to scroll through all of the photos here and determine what is sharp in each image, and then spit out a final image at the end. All right, so that took about 2 minutes, not too bad. Again, one thing I wanted to mention is I'm using 10 files and I'm using 60 megapixel files, so that probably slows it down a little bit. But 2 minutes is not too bad. Gives me a good chance to go fill up my water, grab a drink or whatever. Now you can see on the left is the before image for whichever source image you have selected. For example, we can select this one again. And then on the right is the merged images. So you can see on the left, this source image, blurry in the background, but sharp in the foreground. Then on the merged image, sharp in the background, sharp in the foreground. And you can see we maintain that sharpness all the way through. Everything in the image is completely tack sharp from front to back. And that was very, very easy to put together. You know, I've done very little work compared to what I would have done in Photoshop. I would have been sitting here with a brush, painting it forever. So now that you have this image, you can go through. If you need to do any retouching, you can. This is the point in time at which you can use a brush. So you select the source image and then you can paint here to paint out a particular spot if it didn't do a good job. I find that I usually don't have to do this, but if I did, this is basically where I would do it. You can also do text or scale, but you don't need that for landscape and outdoor photography. Then finally, you can do saving. So usually what I'll do is hit save. That'll open up. You can decide where you want it to save to. This is great because it's saving to the original place where it came from. I'm going to save it as a DNG as well. Compared to a TIFF, a DNG is going to give me a raw file format that's going to give me a little bit better colors. TIFF doesn't quite have as good of colors as DNG would, so I want to save that as DNG. Hit save, and then you can just load that right back into Lightroom and then start your photo edit at wherever you want to edit. So you don't have to use Photoshop to use this method, which is great. Now, I do want to mention, since I know a lot of you guys might be considering buying this software, there's a few different packages. I want to make sure that you get the right package. You do not need the most expensive one. And if you want, definitely get the trial to make sure that you like it before you buy it. Don't just take my word for it. I believe they have a trial version that gives you the pro package, but there's a few different packages you can choose from between a 1-year license or lifetime. Honestly, I think the software is great, so I would just recommend getting lifetime, but between light, pro, and premium, how do you know which one to get? We'll look at the differences here. Essentially, in the pro, a lot of these things don't matter for what you'll be using it for outdoor photography, but saving to DNG is the big one that I think you really want. This is only available in Pro. If you don't mind and you don't care that maybe the colors won't be as good, the dynamic range won't be as good by saving to a TIFF, you can end up just getting the light, but I would really recommend the Pro so that you get that raw file coming out. And then in terms of the premium, really you just get the remote for mobile, which is not necessary. This is for someone who's like shooting in a studio to shoot macro scenes like this. But for those of us landscape photographers, we're not doing that. So there's no benefit to getting the premium over the Pro. So I really would just recommend getting the Pro package if you are thinking about buying it. All right, hey, so I hope that helps you to do a little bit of a focus stack without using Photoshop. I know a lot of people don't like using Photoshop. It's not super user-friendly. It can be a pain to use, and this way kind of automates the process, and not only do you not have to use Photoshop, but it's easier and works better than Photoshop as well. If you have any questions about the whole process, let me know down below in the comments. Happy to answer them and help you out. I try and get back to everybody if I can. And otherwise, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and a subscribe. It helps me to grow my channel, which means I can get you more videos every single week that help you improve your photography. Anyways, my name is Austin James Jackson. As always, greatly appreciate you being here, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.